Okay, today's discussion or topic is just going to be about how to create a very simple access method for a remote desktop. So this doesn't use a VPN. It uses something quite close to it, which is called ZeroTier. And ZeroTier, basically, if you can imagine, this website would be the interface for your local the router in your home, but this is in a data center or a number of data centers across the world that are providing you a very, very fast network connection across the internet to any of your devices that are connected to this sort of virtual router, I suppose is what we'd call it. And it's free for home use. It's very simple, and all you got to do is install it. It even has a mobile app, which does unfortunately act like a little bit like a VPN. So if you have another VPN on your phone, that will affect it. But I don't think there's another way or another easier way for them to do that. So um, that's just that's one of the only downsides I can really think of. Um, and it is encrypted as well. So while it's not actually a VPN, it's much better. I think what it does is it installs a virtual LAN port basically to your network devices, and it's always connected. As soon as the machine starts up, it will connect through to this virtual router, and it'll find the fastest route. So for me, I'm in Thailand today, and we're going to connect to my server or my remote desktop server, which is sitting at home in in Singapore, and you'll see just how kind of brilliant it is. I can't really express it another way because I do all sorts of things from initiating trades remotely to doing all of my more grunty data science um, work, like it runs an SQL server which pulls up all of the sort of internal market statistics for me. And that's all run remotely, which I then connect again through a just an ODBC connection in Excel, which then connects again over ZeroTier, um, and which is and the data set is sitting on that SQL server on this remote desktop that we're going to talk about today. Okay, so over in here, if we've signed into ZeroTier, you can create a network, and so I've already got two networks here. This one is uh, just my main one. I've set it to private. You have to be authorized in order to become a member of this network, so a member of this virtual router, if we think of it like that. And you can set, just some very simple things. So I think I've left this all basically default. So it's on broadcast. It's gonna, uh, members can be either manually or automatically added. I've never been able to add them automatically, so I'll talk through that. But in here, you can see the members that have been added today. So I'll probably just create a whole new one now that this is out on the internet, stop the hackers. But basically, on the machine client, once you've downloaded and installed that, you would just have it start the UI at login, which just gives you this. This is all there is to it, and you can see here that it's connected, or it tells you a few bits and pieces. I have uh, never touched anything on here that I can remember, and you can see that it's connected to this router, which is up the top here. So the network ID is there, and then it just gives you a sort of uh, an easy to remember name for it as well. Again, all automatic. and you can see this machine's address. So its client name is F496, etc. You would just click that in order to add it, and then just paste it um, there, and then add new member, and you'll see that it will pop up here, and then this will probably be unselected. So just check that, and then you can write in the the, the name. These are just the names of my computers, and on the local area network, I can connect using that on the remote desktop application, or on an external network, which was what I'm on today. Then I have to use the IP address. Okay, so back on here, um, over on this other desk. So I just use, by the way, this is a really nifty feature for Windows. You just have a remote desktop, or you have virtual desktops. Can do a video on that if you need it, but it's quite easy to just do it through there. So you can see here, I've put in that address there into here. What you will have often pop up on the first connection is it'll put up a warning about connecting to a server, and what you want to do is just install the certificate that it offers to install, and then you won't get that warning coming up all the time. And you can also save the connection, so the username and password in here as well. So it'll always uh, just connect straight in and enter everything that we to do with the user's profile. All right, so in here, what we're going to do is just run through the sort of bones of this particular article, and the reason that we're going to go through this process is because, well, one, I've already been through this process. I had an issue with the microphone, so you're going to see I've already done a lot of these items. But the reason I did this again was because uh, last time I left New Zealand and put everything in a box, the operating system, I don't know, for whatever reason, after an update on this remote desktop server, it just it it really seemed to gum it up. It was running Windows 11 Pro as well, and I think whatever Microsoft were doing with Windows 11 Pro was just causing all sorts of strange issues. There's even a setting which is no longer um, in Windows 11 Pro, which was just cascade windows. So if you have a window that, for whatever reason, opens off on another screen, this option was no longer available. So in Fury, I completely blitzed it and developed a very, very lightweight Windows 10 Pro operating system configuration, which took away all of Microsoft's telemetry and Windows Defender. I got rid of that. I now just have malware bytes. You don't need very much Windows processes running at all. I think even now, if we were to go to Task Manager, it has very few background processes running. So we have 83 on Windows 11. I think I had like over 140 processes just humming away in the background doing um, whatever they were going to do. So kind of annoying. So I had configured all of this already on that machine, and after blitzing it, obviously, I no longer had had this configuration, which basically this configuration tells Microsoft Remote Desktop Server to do any graphics rendering on the GPU, which frees up resources and just makes the whole experience more efficient and lower latency, I think, as well, because the CPU isn't having to do all of the GPU and remote desktop session and serve us this remote terminal service. So I found this tutorial, which I'll leave in the description, but we're just going to run through quite quickly all of these bits and pieces here. So if you all we do is basically pull up the local group policy control panel and just open that. I've already got it open, but so you just open that. Doesn't need administrative rights or anything like that. Then we go to this navigation panel here on the left and go to administrative templates, Windows components, and then come down to remote desktop services here. And you can see there, so remote desktop services. Then we have our session host or session environment. Sorry, there it is, remote desktop session host. And then again, down into remote session environment. And then you'll click on this first and then basically go through and enable these. So we'll go to edit and you'll see here I've already enabled them, but you will find on yours it's probably selected as not configured. So just enable it. Click OK. By all means, read about what you're doing here if you want to. Click OK. You do not need to click apply. You might as well just restart the machine and then everything changes. Okay. You just go through and enable all of these, but they do have some settings that are worth talking about. So we're now so we've done the configure remote FX. Now we're just going to optimize the visual experience when using remote FX. You see that? It tells you where you are. And then we have the screen capture or frames per second. You can obviously have best quality if you're not so worried about the update cycle of the remote desktop session. I just have it on medium. And then on lowest, it's just going to obviously be the lowest latency, but you'll have a slight reduction in image quality. And then screen image quality, I imagine if you had that set to this one set to lowest and this one set to highest, it would probably, and there wasn't much of an update or a graphics update happening, then it would gradually get better as the bits basically made their way down the pipe. But so you can leave these both to their defaults and just check enabled, hit OK, and then optimize visual experience for remote desktop service sessions. Again, come in here, hit edit, have it enabled, and then you have two options here. Rich multimedia, which basically means to me general purpose. If you were, say, just a developer and you really only did text-based work, then maybe you'd get another small performance boost by selecting text only. But for me, because it's a general purpose machine, I leave it as rich multimedia. Again, just click OK. All right, so then going back to the navigation panel over here, we come back up one to remote session environment. And we have these here. Obviously on my machine, it's all enabled. We're going to use the hardware graphics adapters for all remote desktop services. So again, come in here, edit, hit the radio button for enabled, hit OK. Configure the compression for remote FX data. Again, on the tutorial website, it's this is a tutorial for a server where perhaps lots of engineers are connecting and competing for that server's um, RAM, compute, and GPU, and so it needs to figure out who to prioritize or what machine needs prioritizing. So it's going to be slightly different to what's in here, but the translation for that for a single terminal remote desktop is simply going to be balance the memory and network bandwidth. So, for a trading server, obviously, you don't want it to favor maybe any one thing, but perhaps if you were, you really needed to for the server to be prioritizing data up and down and not necessarily prioritizing remote FX, then you might want to change something there. Of course, if you probably don't want to select this last one. That tends to make everything very slow, I believe. So we're just going to obviously use balanced, and that's the best one to leave it on, I think. And then enable remote encoding. That's the last one to make sure it's on and enabled. I think this is just part of the remote desktop protocol, I think. So you just enable that one, and then you can close this window, restart your machine, and you can see here it's pretty damn good. I am on terrible hotel Wi-Fi. It disconnects so frequently, but for now it seems relatively stable. But you can see that that's very workable. So this is Thailand connecting all the way back over to Singapore through probably some quite horrific quality of service as well, which ZeroTier handles for us and makes sure that we have the best connection through, um, you know, all of those network hops. So you can see here, um, this really is like totally workable. Um, for trading purposes, as long as you're not probably doing scalping and things like that, which I don't necessarily do. I would do that if I'm actually at home in front of this machine connected and actually watching it with well, supposedly the lowest latency that I'd be able to achieve, which seems to be about slightly less than 100 odd milliseconds back to the exchange for me. But over this, you're probably looking at 250 to 300 milliseconds. So you may not really be able to scalp using that unless you're doing slightly longer term frame scalping. But this is totally fine for intraday swing trading to be initiated either on your laptop, which is what I'm on now, or from your mobile phone if your price alert system is all set up and working. So I will leave it there. Hope that helps. If there's any questions, obviously let me know in comments. And if you have any suggestions or you want to know a little bit more about what else I've set up on this machine, perhaps I'll go through how to set up an SQL server, or maybe how I use ChatGPT to uh, really throw out ideas as fast as I can and eliminate bad trade ideas. I am purely statistically driven, so I don't really execute trades on any whims. I'm looking for specific range exhaustions and you know, how often those range exhaustions may be followed by another event. But I'm not really going to be talking about trading on this channel, or how to trade. There's plenty of channels out there that can provide you that kind of entertainment. If you want to see some of the inner working, though, that I go through, I'm quite happy to do a video on that. All right.